All right, everybody, here's our last video for section 8, which is going to be on solving literal equations or formulas. Solving a literal equation means that it is a real life formula, okay, a real life equation that means something. For example, A equals LW. This is a real formula, okay? Area equals length times width. I don't expect you to know that, okay? But what if they ask you to solve for W? Remember what that means. That's a fancier way to say get W by itself. All right. The rules of algebra are not going to change here just because we now have letters involved. How is the L connected to the W? The L is connected to the W by multiplication. How do we get rid of multiplication? We divide. If I divide this side by L, I have to divide this side by L. Here's the problem. I have no idea how to divide letters. Okay, we can't divide letters. And so we can't simplify this. All I know is that A over L is going to equal W. And that's how we leave our final answer, right? We're not changing any of the rules of algebra here. If you feel comfortable with when you would divide, when you would add, you're going to do the same thing, and the only difference is you cannot simplify as you go. Okay? Let's take another famous formula. This happens to be the formula for perimeter of a rectangle. Okay? You don't need to know that. Okay, again, this was area of a rectangle, this is perimeter of a rectangle. All right? That's not the point. If you're given something like this, and let's say you already know the perimeter you want to work with, but you're being asked to solve for L. That means you want to get L by itself. How are you going to do that? All right, L is your target. What's the furthest thing from L on this side that you could take away? 2W. So I'm going to take away 2W from both sides. I don't know how to subtract P minus 2W. So I have to leave it like that. That gives me P minus 2W equals 2L. Almost there. I want to get just L. The 2 is still connected to the L by multiplication. Divide by 2. Whatever I do to this side, I have to divide this whole side. They have to look identical. Now, you can either do it straight across like this, or you can do it across the board where everything gets divided by 2. I personally don't care how you prefer to show your work, as long as you realize that the same thing has to happen to both sides. So there's 2 possible correct answers here. Either P minus 2W all over 2 equals L, or P over 2 minus, the 2's will cancel, W equals L. They're the same thing. So it really just depends on how you prefer to show your work. But again, stepwise, we really didn't do anything new, okay? We didn't do anything fancy. These are our regular algebra rules. Next example, volume. This happens to be the formula for volume of a cylinder, okay? Again, I don't expect you to know that. But what if you already knew the volume of the cylinder or the can that you had, and you were being asked to solve for H? That means get H by itself. What's connected to the H? This whole chunk, pi r squared, is being multiplied by H. You can do that in one shot. If it's one operation, you can do it in one shot. So I'm going to divide by pi r squared. which means I have to divide this side by pi r squared. I have no idea how to do that, so I'm going to leave it as v over pi r squared equals h. Okay? Now, last but not least, let's do a long one. Let's say we had A equals 1/2 h little b plus big B. This also happens to be a real life formula. This happens to be the area of a trapezoid. Again, that's not what's important here. But what if you were asked to solve for little b? You want to get little b by itself. This one's tricky because you've got little b with big B in parentheses, and then you've got these two outside the parentheses. All right. Instinct might tell you that you're going to want to distribute this first. That might not be the best choice here because now you're putting more things in front of little b. Your goal here is really to try to remove things, okay? Take it away from little b. So I'm going to give you an analogy here. It's a silly analogy, but it works. Pretend that you were in some sort of military operation and your target is little b. Little b is protected by big B in a cave with 1/2 and h as the bodyguards. Your goal is to get in here. Who do I have to take out first? I got to take out these bodyguards. I'm going to start with the fraction. This is 1/2 being multiplied. How do I get rid of multiplication? I divide. But when I divide fractions, I really multiply by the reciprocal. So I multiply by 2/1, which means I multiply that side by 2/1. That gives me 2a equals h times little b plus big B. All right, so far I got rid of one bodyguard. The next bodyguard here is this h that's still protecting the cave. Again, it's connected by multiplication. I want to divide. If I divide this side by h, I have to divide the other side by h. So I get 2a over h, but now I can get into the cave. The last bodyguard to take out is that big B. How is it connected to the little b? It's connected by addition. So I subtract big B from both sides. Keep in mind, all of this happened first. This minus b is the last step, so it does not go in the fraction. It happened after the fact. So this is 2a over h, take away big B, and that gives us little b. Your goal is to get whatever variable they say by itself. I know that analogy seems silly, but it really does work. And if you go back and it makes sense for all the other algebra as well, by all means, use it for your other algebra. But the goal here is to simply still get that letter alone. The only thing is you can't simplify as you go when it comes to these literal equations. If you have any questions, again, please don't hesitate to contact me. Okay, I do expect you to do a lot of practice with algebra because we are expecting you to master this before moving on to the next course. All right, if you have any questions, let me know. And I will see you in the next video.